Hi everybody, I'm coming to you today and we are going to use up some of those food gifts that you guys got for Christmas. So one of the things we're going to use is apple jelly, and the apple jelly that I make is a little bit darker than the apple jelly that you will find in the grocery store, and it's simply because I don't just use apple juice. I actually use apples. I actually use the fruit, I use the peeling, I use the core, all of that, and that's how you get a deeper, richer apple flavor. And with that, we're going to make sticky apple ribs, okay? And the second thing we're going to make is apple pie jam ham pies. Usually the ham pies that you find in the grocery store are fried, but with these, we're going to put them in the oven. You guys are welcome to use your air fryer. It'll make them amazing. My oven is a convection oven, so it'll be on the temperature of 400, which I have it preheating right now. And it has a fan in the back, which makes the air flow just like an air fryer. And we'll cook them on a rack so that they'll cook evenly on top and on bottom. And that way you get the amazing crispness as if you fried them. We're going to glaze them as well. So with our sticky apple ribs, what I used, I actually took country style ribs, cut them up into cubes. So the country style rib, it was about this long, let's say this long, and it was about this wide, okay? So it was about this long and it was this wide, and I cut it in half, and then as you can see, I cut it down into cubes. And what I did was I started some ahead because I had, quite a bit, and I didn't want to take you all through that entire process. So we're going to start from here. I have my quick cooker here, and we have it on the sear setting. I have about 2 tablespoons of oil in there, and you can use any oil of your choice. And mine has already been preheating, so you wait on yours to preheat, and then we're going to put the cubes of ribs inside. And we're not trying to cook them all the way through. What we're basically doing is browning them off, and I'll show you with some that I have done ahead of time, if you can see that. So what I did was put them in here, and I let them cook for about 10 minutes, and that's how I got the consistency and the color that I have here. So what we're going to use for these sticky apple ribs, like I told you, we're searing them off in our quick cooker. 2 tablespoons of oil. We have our apple jelly, and I have some that I had in the refrigerator that I use for, I use it to glaze a ham with. So I'm going to use up the rest of that in this recipe today. Waste not, want not. We're going to use about a cup of water. And here I have kosher salt and pepper. It's about 2 tablespoons kosher salt, 1 teaspoon pepper. And that's all we're going to use today, guys. And this is a very simple recipe. The reason why we're not using loads of seasoning is because pork in itself can have a salty flavor, as well as with the apple core jelly, it's going to have so much flavor in it that's what we want to taste when we taste this pork. We want the stickiness from the jelly as well as the sweetness from the apple. So we're going to let that go, and while that's going, I'm going to walk you over here so that you can see my ingredients for my apple ham pies. So here we have the items for the apple ham pies. What we have is apple pie jam. We have our Madagascar vanilla extract. we're going to use 1 beaten egg. And that beaten egg basically is going to be used to seal the pie crust, as well as we're going to brush the top of the pie crust to give it a nice golden flavor. Like I said, we're mimicking as if we were frying them, but we're not using a ton of oil. We're using our oven and our air fryers. And here I have a cup of powdered sugar and about 1.5 tablespoons of almond milk. You can use regular milk, you can use water, you can even use limoncello, you can use whatever liquid that you want to use to make your glaze. It is up to you, and it's all according to the flavor that you're going for. So with me, I'm using the vanilla flavor with about a 1/2 teaspoon of the vanilla flavor with our almond milk, and that is what I'm going to whip into our powdered sugar to make the glaze. Okay, so while we're doing this, once we get our pork all seared off and started on its second cooking step, then we'll get into making our ham pies, and everything should be finished at the same time. When you are making these different dishes, just remember you can add or you can take away, but always kind of stick with the base if you want your recipe to come out the way that it will today. Okay, so guys, in the comments, I would love for you to tell me, what type of food gifts did you receive this Christmas? I absolutely love homemade gifts, as you all know. I make a lot of items, as well as I like to receive them. You know, getting things like a basket with apple jelly, apple ham pies, a container of cinnamon in it, the ingredients for hot chocolate, all of that into a basket. That's an amazing dessert right there, all in one for me. You can take your hot chocolate mix, make you a nice cup of hot chocolate, have your apple ham pies, and there's your dessert. So, you know, when you're thinking about giving people gifts and you know that you have friends that are really big on sentimentality, homemade gifts are an amazing thing to give them. I'm going to show you guys a little simple trick to be able to get your canned goods, your home canned goods open. If you are new to receiving home canned goods, a lot of people don't realize that they're actually sealed. Yes, they're sealed. It's a process that we all do to get these items sealed and safe, not only for you to eat, but for us to eat and our families to eat. So guys, it's just as simple as taking a old school pop top can opener. I believe I got this one and many others from the Dollar Tree. It's a $1 item, and you just take that, put it to your can, and you pop the top. Let me show you. See? It smells so good. You can smell all the different spices that were used when I made it. I love items like that. And when you, in this season of fall and winter, apples are very prevalent. So being able to get them and make different items out of them so that when spring comes and they're not so sweet or they're being flown in from very far off, you have your items. And that's the same thing that I do with my strawberry sauce. In the summertime, strawberries are prevalent. They're everywhere. They are sweet. And at that time, I gather as many as I can gather because, as you guys know, I keep a garden outside, but I have not been successful at growing strawberries. So I just purchased them. In the summertime, you can get them 3 for $5, and sometimes you can even get $1 a carton. Or if you can go to one of your local U-Pick farms, then you can get them for a lot less. And please support your local farms. Just a little plug in there for that. But with that, buying your items at the height of their season means that you're getting the best product that you can get. And I enjoy that. And in my products that I sell to other people, I make sure that I'm giving them the best. I'm not giving you what I wouldn't eat and what I wouldn't feed to my family. And so that's why I say always make sure you're buying at peak season. Okay, so our pork is browning wonderfully, and it is at the color that we would like for it to be. So what I'm going to do is add the rest of the pork back in. And guys, what we're actually doing in our quick cooker is we're basically braising. We're not boiling, we're not steaming, but we're gonna braise this pork. And we're going to do it on our beef pork setting. Once I put the seasoning in and stir it up, we're gonna do it on our beef pork setting. Once that stops, then we're gonna pour our apple jelly on top. We're gonna stir it up, and then I'm gonna put it on the sear setting. By putting it on the sear setting, what we're doing is searing off any of that liquid, letting some of that liquid evaporate, and that's where we're going to get that process of getting our pork really sticky. So we put our 2 tablespoons of kosher salt in, our teaspoon of black pepper, and now I'm going to put our 1 cup of water in. We're going to put our lid on top. I'm going to cancel the sear setting, and now I'm going to take it over to our beef and pork setting, which gives us a preset timer of 35 minutes. And we're going to press start. So we got that set, got it out of the way. We're going to wash our hands, and we're going to get started on our apple ham pies. So here we are with our ingredients for our apple ham pies. So all I have to do is I'm going to get our pie crust out of the refrigerator. And And guys, for this recipe, to make it simple, we're going to use a pre-made pie crust. You are more than welcome to make your own pie crust, but for a quick weeknight dessert or a quick potluck dessert, you can use the pre-made pie crust. And I kept my pie crust in the refrigerator due to the fact that I knew that I had quite a bit of pork to brown. And I didn't want my pie crust to get soft and gummy. So you see, your box of pie crust comes with 2 rolls. And I have opened up our apple pie jam, and this is the consistency. It's thick and chunky, which is the perfect consistency to make apple ham pies. And the reason for that is because you do not want a runny filling, because when you go to bake them, no matter how tight you attempt to seal them, all of your filling is gonna run out onto your pan. And so here we're just going to unroll. Let me get a paring knife. We just unroll our pie crust, and I have, most of you probably have a pie cutter or a biscuit cutter, but here I just have a Pampered Chef Simple Additions mug, and I'm gonna use that to make my circles for my ham pies. So we will probably get about 4 rounds out of this dough. And so always try to get as close to your first cut as possible, because you want to utilize as much of your dough as possible. You don't want to waste anything. And you just continue. Until you're complete. And so what I will actually do to get 5 rounds out of this dough, I will take the trimmings and I'll press them together. Nothing fancy, just taking the trimmings, I'm pressing them together. And I'm going to press them out to be able to get a 5th round. That way we're not really wasting anything. If you do not have a rolling dowel or rolling pin, you're more than welcome to use a mason jar. I've done that in years past. If I was already working with a mason jar, I just used a mason jar. And remember, when you're using your scraps, that you want to try to roll it out as thin as the other rounds because you want everything to cook consistently. And so we've gotten that as thin as the others. And we're just going to cut our 5th round. And then, as you can see, we have minimal amount of scraps, okay? So now we're going to take our rounds and we're going to lay them out onto our cookie sheet. We're going to take our apple pie jam, bring you a little closer in. We're going to take our apple pie jam, and I want you guys to absolutely, oh, this is an amazing consistency. I want you guys to resist the temptation to overfill, okay? So you can use a cookie scoop or you can use a spoon like I'm using. I'm trying to resist eating this. And you're going to take a nice healthy spoonful and dollop it in the center. Again, resist the temptation to overfill because you want to keep all of your filling inside. You want to be able to, when you take a bite out of this pie, you want to be able to enjoy what's inside. Okay, as you can see, each one of our rounds has a nice hearty spoonful of our apple pie jam. So what we're going to do now, we're going to take our egg wash and we're just going to brush the edges. Of each one, not using too much because again we're just using it to seal. And if you guys are worried about the raw egg, remember this is being baked at 400 degrees in either your Pampered Chef air fryer or in your oven, excuse me. And I like to take one of my kitchen spoons. Sorry. I like to take one of my kitchen spoons and it has a rounded tip. And I use that to actually seal my hand pies. And it gives a pretty edge. So as you can see, as I'm folding over, if you overfill your hand pies, it's going to ooze out both sides. And mine still just may. And if it does, I'll just have to remove just a small amount of the filling. And so I start in the center and I begin to seal. making sure that your hand pie is completely sealed up. And this is what it should look like. Oop. Trying to ooze out. You can use, I know that some people have pie crimpers and items like that. I don't have those items. I am really big on any kitchen item that I have needs to be multi-use. If I purchase something and it is not, if I go to look at something and it is not multi-use, I will not buy it. And it's because I don't like to have just a lot of items hanging around my kitchen. I absolutely love cooking, and everything that I own, I use. A lot of things I use every day, like when it comes to my quick cooker, my manual food processor, things like that. I may use absolutely every day, or at least 4 out of the 7 days of the week. Okay, guys, as you can see with this hand pie, I'm going to bring you a little closer. The filling decided to ooze out of the side. So it is a good thing that it happened prior to cooking. So what we do is we just move that to the side. And you continue to seal, okay? And once we get every hand pie sealed, then we'll come back and brush with our egg wash. Again, you can either use the back of a spoon to give a pretty scalloped edge, or you can crimp the edges, or you can use a pie crimper. So usually if I am not going to glaze these hand pies, I coat them in a mixture of raw sugar and cinnamon prior to cooking, so that the outside is kind of glistening and you get a nice crunch from the sugar. But because I'm going to take them and put glaze on them after they are done, then I won't do that. So we're going to take our hand pies, and as you can see, I have my sheet pan fitted. I have aluminum foil on the top of the sheet pan, and the reason being, if any of this sticky, oozy apple pie jam gets onto the pan, you don't want to have a hard cleanup. So if you line your pan with aluminum foil, that makes it easy. So make sure you have space in between each of your hand pies. We're going to place them in the oven. And we're going to start them off with 20 minutes. Make sure at the 15-minute point that you check on your hand pies to see if they are done. If they aren't, let them continue on going for the last 5 minutes. Remember, your filling is already cooked. All you're doing is crisping up the outside, okay? So I'll bring you guys back when our pork is ready and when our hand pies are ready to be glazed. So guys, we are back. Our apple hand pies are out of the oven. Our pork is finished. And so what we did was I made sure for any of you who are afraid of pressure cookers, the new age pressure cookers, especially what made me get the Pampered Chef pressure cooker was the fact that it has so many safety features. As you can see, this little red button is up. That is considered the pressure button. That means there's still a lot of pressure inside of the cooker. So we press the pressure button, and as you can see, that releases the residual pressure that was left behind. Now, as you can see, that button is down, and that allows us to be able to take the top off of the pressure cooker. And there is our pork. Nice and tender. We're going to take it and we're going to top it with our apple jelly. This one has been in the refrigerator, so it's a little thicker than the other one. But nonetheless, it all melts the same. Make sure we get all of the jelly out of the jars. We're going to stir that up. And right now, it has a lot of liquid on the inside. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our setting for our quick cooker and we're going to go to our sear setting. And we're going to let that go. While that's going, we no longer need the lid right now because we have it on our sear setting. We're going to make our glaze for our apple ham pies. So guys, one of the issues that I ran into while I was baking our ham pies, they began to stick to the rack. And once they stuck to the rack, because the pie crust was a little bit softer than I would like, some of the jam began to ooze out. And so I had to take it off the rack and just place it on my pan. If you have that problem, again, remove them from the rack and just place them on your greased pan. Next time I won't